One tarnation? I meant to do that.
Howdy folks, this is Applegeek, and I'm about to watch My Little Pony Season 8, Episode 16. The last episode was rather good, so I'm hoping for another good episode this time, so we'll see if the trend goes that way. I have really no announcements at this point, so let's just go ahead and give this a watch. Episode 16, starting now.
Dear, it is difficult to express how grateful I am to you for teaching me the power of friendship. You would think after more than 1,000 years, there would be nothing left to learn.
No. You never stop learning.
And yet, even a pony as old as I can continue to be surprised by how much there is to know.
Uh-oh. Easy enough fix. Oh, the dock's there. There's that ship again.
I hope you find these postcards enjoyable, and I look forward to seeing you again. Though
He's
I
really
can't
trying not
say
new
when
things.
my journey will be complete. Your friend, Starswirl.
Senpai's my friend now!
Trying to have your idol writing to you about the friendship lessons he's learning.
I'm not sure I'll ever get used to it. Of course, if he really wants to learn about friendship, he could just come to our school.
Professor Sparkle? The main pony just came with a few things.
The sewing machines I ordered for my class.
These came too.
Really?
I wasn't sure what to make of them.
She's so adorable.
These machines were costly, but I am quite certain the friendship lessons I can teach my students with them will be invaluable. Oh, don't worry, darling. I'll think of something. And I didn't use the school funds to buy these. I made the purchase entirely with my own bits.
It's not
Wow.
that. It's this.
What? What is it?
Why waste your time at a friendship school that's just a school? Learn everything they teach and more at Friendship University.
Okay, who's running the Friendship University? Please tell me it's not Starswirl. That we don't need to go there. Was this Chancellor Naysay? Is that coming back around now? What is going on here? But hey, good props to Rarity to buy the sewing machines herself, especially knowing they were really expensive ones, so that's cool. But, wow,
Who would open another friendship
where are we going
school?
with this?
Oh, I'm sure it's nothing to worry about. You're the princess of friendship. What could this other school possibly offer?
It isn't just another friendship school. It's a university. It
Uh-oh.
says they teach the same lessons of computer
Is it accredited?
in half the time. That's twice the learning.
And it's in Las Pegasus? If Professor Rarity lets us skip her sewing class, road trip!
Please tell me it's not run by the Flim Flam brothers.
I don't like to judge solely on appearances, but what kind of friendship school is this?
Only the best friendship school in the
Second-rate
West.
one?
And maybe all of Equestria.
I don't know about this. Who is it?
There's more ponies in here than at our whole school. Who is running this place?
Flim Flam? Flim Flam?
Welcome, friends!
Yo!
You are about to embark on a journey of amazing magnitude. One that will change your lives forever. To embrace a new path and become students of Friendship U.
Slam. Of
Of
course.
course!
You're alone and you can't make friends. We
A song?
understand
Really?
light.
Really?
Until now, there was just one way your friendships could take flight.
There is a school real far away that'll teach you what to know. But if you live here, you couldn't stay.
You'd learn you have to go.
They have student housing! That doesn't make any sense!
Now there's an alternative to all
Twilight is not amused.
Sister school, I'll have you know, but our whole university. At Friendship U, our aim is true. In a city, not some backwater. You'll learn the things you need to know at our new alma mater. That's it, every pony. You heard correct. Friendship U, the one and only university of friendship.
As you can see, we're a success by any kind of stat.
That may be so, for all I know, but I still smell a rat.
How long have you been in business? How can you have success rate charts already?
The presence is a testament to the mutual respect we share.
What? No, it isn't.
What mutual respect?
Work complete.
To have the friendship princess bless our school is such a treat.
We're so honored at Friendship U.
And of course, taking advantage of her presence.
All of our friendship knowledge. You'll learn it all in half the time in the one and only Friendship College.
How can any pony learn friendship in half the time?
Our coursework is so accelerated to take longer and be a crime.
The lessons that we teach have been reviewed and checked and edited,
Which might explain why our new school's about to be accredited.
Oh no.
Oh yes, it's true.
Yeah, we're going there.
Even the princess of friendship agrees. The only place
We know how their cider turned out quality-wise, so
That's it, every pony. Let's hear it. Tell us again why it's the best. It's the only university of friendship.
Accredited?
It means officially recognized or authorized.
We know.
of course.
But who would accredit this place?
Why,
Chancellor
the
Naysay.
EEA.
Yes! Been waiting to see him again.
Chancellor Naysay?
The Equestria Educational Association has taken an interest in institutions that teach friendship in a pony-first environment. Surely you didn't think your school has a monopoly on the concept?
Well, did they write the book on it?
Ah, yes.
True.
How to teach friendship to creatures who will one day use it as a weapon against us.
How could they use friendship as a weapon?
You tell me, it's your book. Meantime,
Oh.
this university appears to be a promising option for ponies who prefer to stick to the EEA book on the subject.
You can't be serious. They're obviously up to something. It's Flim and Flam.
Well, that certainly wasn't friendly.
The head mayor of a school of friendship, albeit an unaccredited one, would behave differently. Unless she was trying to undermine the competition?
No, what? I am not.
I did think the Princess of Friendship would be friendlier.
Now, fillies and gentle colts, let's show the princess just how friendly we are by signing up for some classes.
You know, and that scene right there, I got flashbacks to the end of Season 5 where Starlight was throwing Twilight's words back in her face.
Why don't I show you around?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but approval from the EEA won't convince me that this school is what you promise.
And what would it take to convince you?
Well, somebody
Yes.
whose opinion I respect, for one.
Really?
Oh, please tell me not
Somebody
Celestia.
like this?
Twilight?
Oh, Starswirl should have seen that coming.
Starswirl? What are you doing here?
Studying friendship at FiM and Flam's wonderful school.
Oh!
What?
I think I know it disguise for
Twilight
you.
School!
Take off that ridiculous beard. Flam!
Ow! Ow!
It's really me.
Oh.
Almost returned, but I didn't believe it until now.
Ouch.
And if a pony of your stature is studying here, there really isn't anything else I need to see. I, Chancellor Naysay, hereby confer upon Friendship University complete and unreserved EEA accreditation.
I don't understand.
Starswirl, you got some splaining to do.
My travels brought me to Las Pegasus. I didn't come for the school, but Flim and Flam convinced me to try it out.
Of course they
Can't
did.
trust Flim and Flam. They tried to con the apples out of their farm. They sold fake health tonic. They run a resort in Las Pegasus.
Technically, our resort is a legitimate business.
I spent 1,000 years thinking
Where's Mudbur when you need
about
him?
Bad pony. You taught me to look for the best in him, whatever Flim and Flam's past may be. Starting this school shows they want to change for the better.
I wish I could believe that.
Besides, what's untrustworthy about opening a school of friendship? They don't even charge for classes.
To
I
what?
don't know, but I know they're up to something.
Okay,
and until
now
I
it's
find out,
definitely
I'm
suspicious.
begging you, come to my school instead.
I understand feeling threatened by competition, but my word, Princess, I wonder if the ill manners of the creatures at your school aren't contagious. I think I will take my leave before I become infected.
Twilight, I promise I'll visit your school soon. But for now, perhaps it's best if you return there.
You know what, Twilight, just do what you do best, and people will eventually realize what's what.
Why we have to investigate.
But we can't go poking around the school. Every pony will think I'm still just threatened by the competition.
Only if we do it as ourselves.
Oh no. Rarity, no, really? Oh, this is gonna be rich. What? What?
Students at our own school.
I don't know, Rarity.
What did I say about using our real names?
Oh no. What?
Sorry, Serenity, but I'm pretty sure this isn't enough of a disguise.
No, no, it's
Hey,
not.
strangers! Are you two new here?
We sure are. Completely new.
Great! See you in class!
Now, I read
Really?
about Shadow Spade to know the key to going undercover is rehearsing your backstory. I'm Plainity, and I love normal stuff. No frills for me. Okay!
My name's Eye Patch. I have an eye patch.
Perfect!
That's the best you can do?
Investigation.
I think we should split up. You enroll in some classes and find out what they're actually teaching.
I have no
I'll
words
look
for this
around
right
and see what
now.
I can find, assuming I'm not recognized.
Welcome, newest students. Let's dive right in, shall we? One of the most important elements of friendship is being thoughtful. True or false?
If by thoughtful you mean generous, I'd say true.
Correct! It was a trick question. Very impressive, Ms.
Plainity.
Well, Miss Plainity. Keep it up and you'll be ready for our next level in no time.
With one right answer,
Let's see if you can
really?
demonstrate for the class. What's something generous you could do for me right now?
Oh boy.
Class, Plainity here is now my star pupil. If any of you want a chance at studying with Starswirl, I take notes on her every action.
Does Starswirl know that his teachings are being auctioned off here?
Hello? The door's open, so I'll just assume it's okay to come in and look around. Unless some pony says it's not.
Say they're not doing this for money, so they're doing it for something.
The element of laughter and its applications. Okay, that seems pretty genuine. When to support your friends' decisions and when to talk sense. That's actually kind of interesting.
Did they just copy Twilight's book?
Friendship University's true goal is to help friends become better friends. Where's the proof that it's all a scam?
There isn't any.
Yeah, they were ready for that.
Did you really think an eye patch was enough of a disguise?
No.
I didn't.
Well then, we agree that every pony will recognize the Princess of Friendship in this photo of you sneaking into our office.
I can see
Twilight.
the headline now. Princess of Jealousy, Twilight Sparkle, bent on ruining her competition.
So sad. A news story like that would destroy.
And now Starswirl's gonna say, "I'm so disappointed in
Nobody
you."
will want to go to your school after that. Just wait until the papers get a hold of this.
Princess Unhinged. It'll be the talk of Equestria.
Gentle ponies, I finished another stack.
Yeah,
The lessons
I knew
in
he was gonna
these
show up.
worksheets are quite fascinating. Twilight, what's going on here?
Go, just your protege getting caught snooping in our office in disguise. Well, sort of.
Not much of one.
Oh, honestly, Princess Twilight, envy does not look good on you.
I'm not envious. I know these two are up to something. I'm just trying to find out what.
The only pony I see who's up to something is the pony in this picture, and it is not the princess I know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's about to be the princess all of Equestria knows.
Unless you decided to drop the whole uncover the scam thing.
Then we'll rip this silly picture up and not let it completely and utterly ruin you and
And you
your
opened yourself wide open to blackmail.
You can be generous with all sorts of things. Gifts, compliments, your time. Hey, iPad!
Verity, you're teaching.
Was your cover blown?
You could say that. Flim
yeah.
and Flam took a picture of me sneaking into their office.
Were we wearing our eye patch?
If I don't stop investigating, they're gonna
Verity.
tell every pony that I'm trying to sabotage their school because I'm jealous.
That's ridiculous.
I don't know. Maybe I am just upset that Starswirl came here instead of my school. Flim and Flam may have turned over a new leaf. We should probably just go.
Probably not, but you can't go about proving it that way.
You are not the kind of pony to let your emotions cloud your judgment. If you think Flim and Flam
What a
are
bad-
good, you can't give up, even if their lessons really are impressive.
Wait, what?
Which reminds me, can you get a message to Spike? I want to return those sewing machines. I need the bits if I'm going to keep advancing here. Tuition's free, but the worksheets sure aren't.
What? Oh, here we go. Here's the other
Flim
shoe.
and Flam are charging for these?
Well, they have to cover expenses, and Flam insists that everything
There we
else
go.
goes to improving the school and...
This is the scam, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
These lessons are so valuable. Are you sure I can't give you more?
Unnecessary.
Really?
Being able to share them with a pony like you is our real reward. Oh my, and you want to study alongside Starswirl?
It's all I have.
What? Oh.
Come
That's
back
harsh.
For the rest when you can afford it.
Wait, I'll sell the shirt off my back.
And that's the kind of determination that will get you to the next level. Student whose name I know.
Wow.
Twilight, maybe I should take over the investigation. Think of your reputation.
My reputation
there is that.
isn't worth much if I won't risk it for what I think is right. Besides, I have a plan.
It's kind of hard to argue with that. Okay, what do you got for a plan? Well, that's an interesting combination. And right into a big... Wow.
Well, brother of mine, we've got almost all the bits we need to expand our resort. If we add another level of classes,
Of
and
course.
worksheets, we'll be there.
Maybe we should add 2 levels, just to be safe.
That's an impressive diorama.
Beauty. But I was
Or
thinking,
model, whatever.
What if we added another extreme pool slide here?
Sure, as long as the pipes for the musical chocolate fountain go through here.
But shouldn't it go closer
What
to
is
the
this, Flim
twin
Flamtopia?
hot tub? Here?
But
I knew your school
Should have had a
was
camera.
scam.
well, if it isn't the Princess of Jealousy, I guess we'll be going to the papers after all.
And I suppose I'll just lead your students into this secret room of bits and resort expansion plans.
Uh-huh.
Let's let's not get hasty. You have something on us, we have something on you. Let's just call it even.
I don't think so. You can destroy my reputation if you want, but using your students' bits to expand your resort is wrong, even if the lessons you teach are good ones.
Yes.
Of course they're good.
The end does not justify the means.
We just skipped every other page. All the lessons have to tie.
Or in this case, the
Fine.
means don't
If
justify the
you wanna
end.
call it even, use that
Something like that.
And stop charging for my lessons. Then you can teach them as much as you like.
Nah, running a school is more work than we thought. Besides, we almost have everything we need.
I think not.
Trinity, my star pupil.
Not plainity, but rarity.
Of course.
Ooh.
We decided to bring something else here to listen to everything you...
That's why the disguise worked. They didn't even know who she was.
Hey, Starswirl.
There we go.
We were just about to...
Return the bits you've collected from your students and close your school.
Busted!
It seems I'll never stop learning from your example, Twilight.
Where's Chancellor Naysay now?
Valuable lesson to stand up for what you know is true. I wish I had known it too.
Thanks for returning our bits. But how are we going to learn about friendship now?
Well, you know, there's a nice little school down in Ponyville.
Well, I can refer you to a fairly reputable establishment just outside of Ponyville. I'm quite certain the head mayor would consider letting you in.
Of course, if I ever go to a school again, I'll make sure it's yours. In friendship, Starswirl.
I still don't understand how Flim and Flam could have gotten a copy of your book.
I finished straightening up in the library. Professor Rarity, I just wanted to make sure you're definitely keeping these.
But of course, darling. If there's one thing I learned at Friendship University, it is not to give up when you know what's right. And I know teaching friendship through sewing is right. I just need to figure out how.
Okay. That line of dialogue. How did Flim and Flam get a copy of Twilight's curriculum book? And right then, Cozy Glow enters. Please. I know the theories are already running wild on this. I'm sure they are. I still don't believe that she is evil, but that certainly does seem rather suggestive. So, there's not enough information to draw a conclusion. We will just have to wait and see how things play out on that front. But, yeah, this is going to be an interesting one to pick apart and analyze here. So, stay tuned, guys. I will be right back with my thoughts on this. And I'm back. And yes, I will talk about Cozy Glow. That's going to come a little bit later. You're just going to have to wait for that. First, I need to talk about Friendship University. I suppose it was inevitable. You know, Twilight School was bound to have competition at some point. It's a little strange why it's happened even before there's any actual graduates of the school. I mean, CMCs aside, we haven't gone through a full school year yet, so kind of hard to know how to copycat it when you don't even know what it's like exactly, but it does make more sense in this case since there was, you know, other things going on behind the scenes with this, but and there's really no reason why there can't be other friendship schools in my opinion, but as, you know, as long as they're legitimate ones, of course. And I'm sure Twilight was jealous. I mean, who wouldn't be at that point? You know, Twilight has worked very hard and staked her entire reputation on her school. You know, at the very least, though, you know, jealousy aside, I would say she legitimately did not want others to be taken advantage of. So it really makes sense why she would want to know what all exactly is going on there. And, you know, she wants to ensure quality friendship just like the Apples wanted to ensure quality of their cider when they first dealt with Flim and Flam back in Season 1. So, you know, it's, you know, comparing apples to apples here. Yes, that was a horrible pun. I'm sorry. Anyway, But yeah, Twilight did let her emotions kind of get the best of her, at least initially. And despite what Rarity seems to think about how Twilight operates, Twilight has a long history of letting her emotions cloud her judgment. Anybody seen the movie? I mean, obvious case there, and there, Lesson 0, and maybe not the best ones, but Feeling Pinky Keen. I mean, I could go on and on. I'm not going to spend all night on that, but suffice it to say, Twilight and emotions don't always mix very well. So yeah, but in this case, it's not really hard to understand why she let her emotions get the best of her. I mean, let's look at what exactly happened there. First, she found out that there's another friendship school. I mean, major shock and confusion, perhaps a little bit of horror there. She finds out that's run by Flim and Flam. Now you've got some anger and disgust in the mix. She finds out that it has gotten accredited by the EEA. I mean, that showdown with Chancellor Naysay probably got some fear, definitely some sadness over, not being the first to be accredited. For friendship schools, some anxiety, obviously jealousy. And then the worst of all, she finds out that it's effectively been endorsed by Starswirl himself. More shock, more sadness. I mean, we've got like a huge cocktail of emotions going on here that she was dealing with. So I'm not saying it's an excuse for how she responded, but it certainly is understandable. I can empathize with the position that she was in at that point. She was caught so completely off guard with absolutely everything that was happening. She needed some time to absorb it all and think of how to respond properly, and she didn't really get that time. And as I said earlier, the end does not justify the means. I mean, first of all, Twilight just... I've got a line out of order here. I'm sorry, my notes here. I'm sorry. Twilight, had the little begging session with Starswirl in front of Flim and Flam and Chancellor Naysay. That certainly didn't look good, wasn't very becoming of a headmare, of a princess, of anyone really. So that didn't work well, but, she should not have snuck around, gone snooping around and stuff looking for evidence of fraud. That's where I meant to say, as I said earlier, the end does not justify the means. And in this case, aside from the moral implications, they were laying in wait for her to do just exactly that. They expected that of her, which is interesting that they know her that well. But they're just waiting to catch her and use that as blackmail. She walked right into that trap. And of course, they made sure, because they were waiting for that, they made sure she wouldn't find anything so easily. And, even worse with this, they could have immediately blackmailed her and instead of just threatening with it. I mean, imagine the scandal that would have been caused by Twilight getting arrested for trespassing at a competing school. Oh, the tabloids would have had fun with that one, believe me. It really, I think, at least to some degree, it would have been better for her to just go back home and just run her own school, like Starswirl had suggested. I'm of the belief that, at least in time, it would have become apparent to everyone that Flim and Flam's school was a fraud. Maybe there'd be some good come of it, but, they would be losing all their money over it, and then, Flim and Flam might have just ended up dumping the place after they got the money they needed for the resort. Hard to say. That actually doesn't feel like a very well thought out plan on their part, because either they have to keep the school running, or they would have to dump it after they got the money they wanted and risk their reputation that way. Or I don't know exactly what their end game was with that. It might not have been the best, most well thought out plan. But anyway, I think Twilight just needed to do what she did best. It was like, if she's caught snooping around and things like that, I mean, being super suspicious and whatever, it's not going to look good to others. It's like, why risk your reputation on something like that? That there should have been a better way to handle it, at least a better way to approach it. So, of course, with the corrupt EEA involved, options were admittedly limited. But, and of course, in the meantime, you know, a lot of ponies might have very well lost all their savings to Flim Flam trying to, you know, buy their way through the friendship lessons and stuff. But, you know, it's a hard position because, I mean, Twilight felt responsible for all of that. But should she have been? I don't believe so. I mean, I'm not of the opinion that that Twilight should have had to have been responsible to that extent. I mean, you know, you can't always save everyone from themselves, no matter how much you would like to. You know, and frankly, if ponies were willing to go broke, I mean, literally selling the shirts off their backs for these friendship lessons, maybe they should have done a little bit of research first and considered comparing with Twilight School, because that probably was a lot cheaper by the sound of it. We have no idea what they charge for admission there, for tuition. I'm sure they have to charge something to cover costs and stuff, but I don't believe that they're getting rich off that school by any means. I mean, even Rarity is, you know, buying her own supplies and stuff, which is what happens with a lot of schools, unfortunately. But, I mean, that was a rather extravagant purchase, too. But, anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point is, there are other options out there, and Twilight School certainly has a lot higher quality of education, so, you know what, do your research before you go all in on a school. But, anyway, and on that front, too, I mean, even though the school isn't accredited, or Twilight's isn't, it's like Twilight is the princess of friendship. Her reputation as a princess in general and as a leader of, you know, lead teacher of friendship in the nation should carry some weight, you would think. So, yeah, of course Starswirl was there at Friendship U, big celebrity and whatever, but he's not the princess of friendship, you know, he's still learning himself, so... Anyway, but Twilight's mistakes aside, it is clear that her first priority was the well-being of others. You know, she didn't want to see anyone get taken advantage of, and she was willing to risk her own reputation in order to see her plan through on this. You know, it wasn't about money for her. It wasn't even really about accreditation. It wasn't even really a thing she was doing out of pure jealousy. I mean, those were all factors, I'm sure, but those were not her primary focus. She would not have been able to live with herself if she allowed Flim and Flam to succeed in swindling all those innocent ponies out of their money, even if they did actually learn something, you know, in the process, so, you know, some good friendship lessons and stuff. You know, that's the case where it kind of it's almost the flip-flop opposite of what she did. For her, it's like the end doesn't justify the means. For Flim and Flam, it's like the means doesn't justify an end. Just because they're doing something good doesn't mean that their ultimate goal was okay. I mean, they were still very much greedy ponies and, you know, swindling people out of their money unfairly. So, yeah. No, Twilight decided to stand firm on her principles, and that is a very difficult thing to do. I mean, that requires a lot of grit. And it's, you know, in many ways, I really see Twilight growing into a good role as a leader. This is just another one of those ways. She stood firm, didn't, you know, go crying to somebody else for help. Didn't ask for Celestia to bail her out. Not that she really has that much in the past, but just saying, you know, there's a lot of different things that she could have done with, you know, all the crazy emotions going through her right then. And I really think, despite some missteps, I really think what she did to resolve the situation was done quite well. And fairly gracefully, too. Now, for Chancellor Naysay. Well, now we know what he's been up to. He has clearly been looking for opportunities to discredit Twilight in some way. And it's pretty obvious that he's not even really interested in proper teaching. This is a personal vendetta against Twilight for embarrassing him and challenging his authority. That's the way I see this. He has accused Twilight of allowing friendship to be used as a weapon against Equestria by teaching to these other creatures. But here's the problem with that. He himself is using unfair accreditation as a weapon to fulfill his own goals. So he's basically committing the same kind of crime that he's accusing Twilight of. Except his is an actual crime and Twilight's is still up for debate. I would say it's not a crime at all, but anyway. But yeah, he gave accreditation to Friendship University solely on the basis of Starswirl's endorsement. Just like, he doesn't need to check anything else. Like, whoa, pony of your stature here? Instant accreditation, full accreditation, nothing withheld, you guys are great. Question. Would Naysay have accredited Twilight School if Starswirl had showed up there first instead? Also, will he now credit Twilight School since Starswirl has switched gears and actually endorsed Twilight School at this point? I'm thinking no, he would not have, and no, he still won't. Because, again, his reasons for doing it to Friendship University were, it's all about discrediting Twilight. He's not going to do anything to help her. And so then that just further proves that he's a complete jerk about all of this. Another question I have is, who actually created a Friendship University? Did Flim and Flam get the idea for this, and Naysay just took advantage of their greed on this and helped them along with the process? Or did Naysay himself seek out Flim and Flam and put them up to this by effectively bribing them or enticing them with all the profits they could make to expand their resort? If Naysay himself actually started this, was the instigator here, then he's an even bigger jerk than I'd ever imagined. That means he was willing to allow ponies to be swindled out of their money while receiving a substandard education, all for the purpose of discrediting Twilight over a personal grudge. And the evidence seems to suggest that he did, as several EEA board members were promoting this school in that scene during the song. And that support came before the EEA had, or I should say Chancellor Naysay had actually given full accreditation to the school. By stooping to this level, he has actually discredited himself and the EEA. Because they're sworn to uphold the standards of education, and he's just throwing the standards right out the window, using these tools however he wants to achieve his own agenda. He clearly does not have Equestria's best interest in mind doing stuff like this. And I can only hope that he will eventually either see the error of his ways or at least be removed from his position of power, because he is thoroughly abusing it at this point. Unlike Twilight. Again, he's doing all the things himself that he's accusing Twilight of. This is totally unfair. And yeah, as I said, forget about Sven Gallop. This guy is like the new worst evil in terms of ponies in Equestria. So we'll just have to see what happens with that. Now, it's time to address the elephant in the room, Cozy Glow. Yes, it seems quite obvious that Cozy Glow is the one who gave the curriculum book to Naysay. I should say, that is obviously what the writers intended us to think. To me, that seems a little bit too obvious. I know, I'm an apologize. Everybody's saying Cozy Glow's evil, and I'm sitting here, apologizing and explaining and whatever. I've got this feeling, I've had the feeling from the beginning that she is not really evil. And I'm gonna hold on to this until I'm proven wrong, and so far I've not been proven wrong. I'm convinced the writers are throwing a ton of misdirection curveballs at us on this. For starters, Naysay could have gotten that book, that curriculum book, one of any number of different ways. Twilight did submit her entire curriculum to the EEA back in the premiere, so they really already had access to the material, for one thing. Of course, there could have been revisions since then and stuff, and it looks like it was kind of rewritten, compacted down into this one textbook. But the book itself is hardly a state secret. There's never been any mention at the school or students or anything about, don't let this material off the premises of the school, can't take it home, whatever. There's never been anything clearly defined like that. And I'm sure many of the students do take the books home to, study for homework and such like that. I'm sure, I doubt all the ponies in Equestria that are at the school all live right at the school. Some of them probably do go home or go home over breaks, whatever. It stands to reason. And for that matter, Naysay himself can seemingly magically portal into just about anywhere he wants, so he could have easily, stolen a copy of the book out of the school himself, during the night or something, or at least made a copy of the book from somewhere. I mean, the possibilities are endless for where he could have gotten a book. And also, it does, of course, make sense to have somebody on the inside to feed him information just so he can kind of keep tabs on what actually goes on there on a day-to-day basis. Gathering fuel and ammunition to, advance his agenda. But Cozy Glow's behavior just doesn't really seem to support the idea of her being his plant. For me, it's going back to marks for effort. If her goal was to infiltrate the school, then she should have done everything she possibly could have to secure her position as a student, which includes passing the tests. She was about ready to flunk out of the school because she was having difficulty absorbing the material, at least as it was presented. This was the scenario that was presented to us. Now, she did initially seem to be sort of conning the CMCs into helping her study for the test. However, she later intentionally failed that test in a misguided attempt to help the CMCs also become students so that they could all go to school together. Now, if her goal was, again, if her entire goal was infiltration, her flunking out intentionally put that in extreme jeopardy. She would not have been able to fulfill her goal over that. And if she was really that evil, there's no reason why she, would have gotten, would have risked that, just to help out the CMCs. She wouldn't have had that conscience thing if she was really truly evil. So it just, stuff like that doesn't add up. And of course, you could argue if you want that the failure of that test and even the little counseling session with Starlight and all of that was part of this big, elaborate, intricate plan to earn their trust. That to me seems like a really big stretch to push it that far. So, now I'm not ready to say that she's not involved in some kind of meaningful way. I mean, after all, her cutie mark is a rook chess piece, which seems quite significant. She's definitely involved in some way. I just think it's a case where we're meant to think that she's evil, we're meant to think she's doing certain things, but there is going to be a huge twist revealed later, and that'll change our entire perspective of all of this. If anything, I would say that perhaps she's an unwitting accomplice in this case, where she's somehow feeding information back to Naysay without realizing that she's doing it, or at least realizing that she's doing anything actually wrong. Some people have commented that maybe she's, his niece or something like that. Obviously, well, she's a Pegasi, he's a unicorn with the cakes. Anything is possible because, Earth Pony, Pegasi, and unicorn all in the same family. But I know there's not enough information. That is all pure speculation. There's no corroborating evidence on that at this point. So I just can't bring myself to call her evil. It's a gut feeling, and I really just feel like it's too obvious. This feels like writing misdirection. So, I mean, there's definitely more to her than meets the eye. It's just probably not at all like what we're thinking it is. And, I even had the idea, now that this is a stretch. I fully admit up front, this is a stretch. But it's possible she is a plant at the school, and a willing one, but not, she wasn't planted there by either Naysay or Chrysalis or anyone with evil intent. Maybe it was Celestia that sent her there. Now, I have a hard time offering any realistic evidence as to why. I mean, Celestia doesn't really operate that way. She likes to observe, things from a distance, but she doesn't, have spies out there, at least never that we've seen before. But the one thing that was going through my mind is that I still think that Celestia is kind of sort of grooming Twilight for, some bigger roles. And now that Twilight is involved with all this international relations with these other nations and stuff, maybe this requires a closer level of scrutiny or something. And with Chancellor Naysay out there, maybe Celestia is just wanting to try and, keep an eye on things or something. A little bit closer than usual. And at the very least, that would explain, I feel like, why Cozy Glow would be both a plant, but also acted the way that she did with the CMCs. So, again, it's a ridiculous stretch. I'm sure that's not what it is. It's just, theories and things were going through my head, so I thought I'd share that. But anyway, again, there's not really just not enough information to draw conclusions on Cozy Glow yet. Obviously, they're playing the long game with her. I think when we get a little closer to the finale, some things will start falling into place. Or maybe not until the finale itself. Just have to wait and see. And speaking of the finale, I have some ideas about that. Now that we have some idea of what Naysay has been up to, it's clear that the finale will indeed revolve around him and his racism in a big way. Also, the Young Six are clearly intended to be very important characters as they represent the creature races that Naysay is so vehemently opposed to. So here's, just at a high level, my theory of what's going to happen. There's going to be some sort of a major conflict, surprise, surprise, in a finale. Some big conflict will occur that will threaten the safety of all the ponies in Equestria. That's textbook stuff. This conflict may or may not be caused by Naysay's own scheming. I would say there's a good chance at this point that it will be. The Young Six will play some sort of key role in resolving this conflict, possibly even directly saving Chancellor Naysay's own life in some way. Naysay will then finally see that they would have been doomed without the help of these friendly creatures and their unique talents and cultures, especially if he caused the problem in the first place and they saved his life anyway. And he will then realize that, well, friendship can potentially be abused. Equestria and the other nations are much stronger and safer together as friends than apart as enemies, or at least as, acquaintances that aren't really meshing together well, for lack of a better description. And as far as what the conflict is, I really don't know. It could potentially be a showdown with Chrysalis. I still feel like they're reserving her for the big series finale next season. In my mind, using a lesser conflict in this season to solidify the relations with Equestria's allies will do well to set them up to be able to handle the biggest conflict ever in the series finale, which I think is Chrysalis. If a final showdown with Chrysalis actually is the lesser conflict and there's something bigger coming, then all bets are off for the series finale. I have no idea where they're going then. I mean, I do have some vague ideas, some possibilities, but nothing really complete picture yet. So just have to wait and see what happens there. Just to mention I know this is running long, but brief bit on Starswirl. I am very happy to see that we've got one of the pillars back around again. Especially Starswirl himself. I was hoping we would see all of them by now. Maybe we'll get to see some others before the finale. But regardless, nice to see he's back, and it appears he is quite serious about bettering himself, thankfully. But he did kind of swing a little bit from one extreme to the other. Previously he was unwilling to see the good in Stygian and just assume the worst about him. In this case, he was unwilling to even consider the possibility that Flim and Flam might not really be trustworthy, despite the concerns voiced by Twilight, who you'd think he would have trusted a little bit more after everything that's happened. Some might say that Starswirl's a bit naive in this case. I can see their point on that. I don't really think he's naive. Well, maybe he is a little bit naive just in terms of friendship lessons in general, because he's still very much, a student of that himself. He's got a lot of catching up to do. But I really kind of think, it's not exactly like he's a young student. We have no idea how old he actually is. We don't even know how many years he'd lived before he went into the Void. So it's really hard to say. But, suffice it to say, he's of the older and a little bit wiser persuasion. He's been around a while. He's seen a lot of things. He isn't stupid. So I think this is more just a matter of him being afraid of repeating the past mistake that he did make with Stygian. That mistake did admittedly have some pretty serious impact on the world. So, it's best not to repeat that. Of course, he did in turn turn a bit of a blind eye to the situation around him, though. I said kind of one extreme to the other. And I remember a quote from somebody that says, "Don't it's okay to be open-minded, but don't let your mind be so open that your brains fall out." It's good to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I believe you can do so while also being wary of the potential for them to betray your trust on things, especially when you've got somebody else warning you about that, somebody that you should know and trust, namely Twilight. Of course, Twilight didn't exactly do the best job in making her case right in that moment, but it isn't exactly like she had very much time to prepare her case. Again, she was just caught completely unawares of all this. So, and clearly his presence at the school was by chance. It wasn't like he was trying to, blow Twilight off or anything like that. But I do kind of wish he had sought out some help from her first. Visited her school first. And also hadn't dismissed her concerns so quickly. So, definitely some room for improvement there. But that said, he was very willing to admit his mistakes once he was shown what was actually happening, and he showed that he intends to learn from those mistakes. So it came a little easier this time than it did back at the end of season 7. So clearly he's improving. He's got a lot to learn yet. So, and he did, of course, turn around and endorse Twilight School. So so kudos to that. I hope we see him there one of these days. And the rest of the pillars. I mean, imagine the pillars standing there beside their respective busts in the main hallway. So, anyway, and whether or not Starswirl will have anything to do with the finale, the season finale, I have no idea at this point. Just have to see how things go the rest of the season. If we see the pillars come back again, I'll be more inclined to think they're involved. Otherwise, they may just kind of be in the background a while, and we'll come back around in a bigger way next season. That's mostly what I had. Just a few quick comments about Rarity. Great support character in this case, in this episode, but a lousy disguise maker. And don't get me wrong, the Plainity outfit was absolutely adorable, but the eye patch for Twilight, really? And for that matter, even thinking that Starswirl's appearance was a disguise. Like, she seems to have lost some of her investigative skills on this front. And not only that, she just wasn't really seeing the scam or anything like that. Well, on that, she got too caught up in teaching generosity that she fell for the scam herself. Go figure. And admittedly, she is quite good at teaching generosity, so that's great to see. And I really hope that she does find some way to teach friendship with those sewing machines that she ordered. Of course, just the fact that she bought them with her own bits is quite generous in and of itself. So, great lesson right there. I just hope she doesn't turn the school into a clothing factory. I mean, no sweatshops, please. You don't need a... don't turn the students into your boutique suppliers. That would not be good. I don't think she would. I'm just making jokes, so... Anyway, that is all I've got on this. I've been talking for a very long time. Thanks so much for listening on this one. I just had a lot to talk through in this. Great episode. Loved this episode. Solid, characters acted well for the most part. Twilight especially. And good moral lesson. Great to see Starswirl. This is the trend that I want the season to be on now. So hopefully the remaining episodes this season are doing better. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and I will catch you again soon for another reaction. Later.